All right, good afternoon from paradise. I'm Ian, that's Nick. We are super psyched because today we have two OGs from the Ferrum Network team. We have Taha, the CTO of Ferrum, and we have Nate, a crypto incubation advisor at Ferrum. You also know him as a content creator here on Crypto Paradise. We are talking Bitcoin today, guys. We are talking BTC Fi, which, if you don't know what that is, listen here. You're going to learn some stuff. And we're talking how Ferrum Network is connecting Bitcoin to every other ecosystem within the blockchain space. So let's kick it off, guys. I know we're talking always about altcoins, this meme, that meme, this low cap gem. But in my view, you really should have some portion of your portfolio. By the way, never financial advice on this channel, not just my personal opinion, but something in Big Daddy Bitcoin, because that is the thing that started it all. It's not going anywhere. And in fact, Bitcoin is evolving and getting better than ever. So we want to talk about that today. But first, guys, maybe some quick introductions from Taha and Nate. I'm sure folks want to hear what you do at Ferrum as well, and then we can dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So happy to be here in paradise with you guys. I'm Taha. I'm the CTO here at Ferrum Labs. We're the team that is behind building the protocol for Ferrum Network and many other really cool things. Before I came into Web3, I've always been a fan of decentralization, but I had an amazing opportunity to work on some really cool projects. We built the world's first zero carbon footprint race with the National Geographic Channel. I was a project CTO for that. Got to work on the Mars 2020 mission and the Europa mission, where we worked on the Mars rover and got to learn how to send commands to Mars and how it takes 30 minutes to get those commands back. So 10-minute block times on Bitcoin don't bother me so much because I've had to wait 30 minutes to figure out if something's actually happening with the rover or not. And then also, if you use Apple iPhone apps, the programming language used to program all those apps is Swift. And my team contributed to that programming language at Apple as well for many years. So those are some of the cool things you did before you landed at the best place ever you could be, which is at Ferrum Network, baby. And now we're at Crypto Paradise talking about our vision and sharing with the rest of you. Hopefully you join us for the mission. With that, back over to you, Ian, and happy to hear from the CIA right here, who's got all the information you want but can't get anywhere else. Nate Dogg, why don't you introduce yourself, man?
Absolutely. Thanks, Taha. Well, if you're familiar with the Crypto Paradise channel, you've seen me before. Been on quite a few of the videos, a lot of the shorts, but what you might not know is that my origins start back with Ferrum. I came on and started working with Ferrum back in October of 2021, so coming up on 3 years now. I wear a lot of different hats for Ferrum. Last week, I was the go-getter running, doing anything and everything at the conference in Lisbon, which we'll talk a bit about here. But I've been on the team, worked on multiple different areas. I helped manage our products arm, which we have. It's essentially a SaaS model for blockchain products called Launch Tech. I'm an advisor for our ventures arm, TDI, the decentralized incubator, obviously content creator here. And then at Ferrum, helping out with a variety of different things, depends on the day, the week, and where they need me. So, yeah, wear a lot of different hats, including here at Crypto Paradise, which is probably where most of you are most familiar with me.
Love it. So happy to have you guys here. So look, Bitcoin is still the most important asset in this space. It's indisputable, right? Where Bitcoin goes, the rest of everything else goes. But I think people sometimes delve a little bit too deep into the alts and they sort of forget about Bitcoin. Why does it matter? Why was it even created? What's this big fuss about decentralization and internet money and all that stuff? So why don't we just talk real quick? What does Bitcoin mean to you guys? Why is it important to you guys? And then we can dive into some numbers too that back up our contention that this is an asset you really need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, Bitcoin kind of, I came from the traditional markets, Web 2 world into Web 3. So Bitcoin to me kind of serves as the index of the entire crypto ecosystem. When the main index is doing well, then it leaves breathing room and speculation timing for other assets within the crypto ecosystem. And you are right that I believe that a lot of people, as they dive deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of crypto, own less and less Bitcoin and go heavier and heavier into various altcoins, looking for the gems and looking for the memes. That's kind of where the market is at now. But I want people to remember that Bitcoin should be in your portfolio. Now we see Bitcoin spot ETF is approved here in the United States, Australia, Hong Kong, and now we're back on 14 days of positive inflows to the Bitcoin spot ETF, and we're tapping back on the all-time highs here with Bitcoin at $70,000. So I think Bitcoin still has upside potential, but really what we're about to talk about and what I think these two are going to hammer on more is kind of the BitFi and the potential for Bitcoin summer, in which if there's more use cases, more alts and collections, whether it's Ordinals, Runes, BRC20, whatever it is going on within the Bitcoin ecosystem, you're going to need to own a bag of Bitcoin to pay for all those transaction fees, just like you guys are familiar with Ethereum. You always need a little Ethereum in your bag if you want to get involved with the altcoin trading and everything that's going on there. So for me, it's two-pronged. I see Bitcoin as the index. I see institutional adoption is going on right now. Inflows are coming in every day, and that's why what is pushing Bitcoin price up higher. But then also, if you like altcoins and this BitFi actually becomes a thing, you're going to need a baseline of Bitcoin holdings to pay for all those transaction fees.
Yeah, totally. I think just piggybacking off of that, you talked about the inflows. We all know like the bull market really starts, of course, when Bitcoin starts to make a move, and then post that, there's a movement that comes into alts. We hear the term Bitcoin dominance chart right now sitting at 50%, but I don't think people realize what that means. Like, what does it actually translate to? And understanding that will blow your mind, because Bitcoin dominance right now sitting at 50% means that Bitcoin, this one asset, this one coin on this one chain, is greater than 50%. It is 50% the size of all of the other chains and assets combined. So it's currently sitting, as I looked up the numbers, at $1.4 trillion. And the total market cap of all assets, these are tangible assets, because you can launch a fake coin right now and you can make it worth $10 billion. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about liquid assets. So the total liquid market cap is 2.7 trillion, and Bitcoin has 1.4 trillion of that, which means there's a massive amount of liquidity on this chain. And what's happened over the last couple of years with Ordinals protocol being launched, and then BRC20 is coming on and taking on $150 billion of trading volume on this one chain. And now Runes coming out. We'll get into that story and why Ferrum is getting heavily involved as not just a spectator paying attention, but as a core contributor in the space. I think that's going to be the conversation in this video here. And we're going to talk about what happened at Ordinals Lisbon. There's so much more to cover, but that's a little bit of my take, is that understand what Bitcoin dominance means, and you really don't want to be ignoring that, because you're gonna definitely regret not understanding that concept and not being part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead,
I was gonna say, yeah, I think at this point, if you don't know what Bitcoin is, you're probably on the wrong channel at the moment. You need to go back to the 101 and do a little deep dive and find out, what about the asset that got this entire industry started. So, I think that what is the most important thing to cover today, or that we're going to get into today, is how, like Nick and Taha mentioned, how the new BitFi ecosystem with Ordinals and inscriptions and runes and BRC20, how that's adding to the ecosystem, how that's going to increase the value of your Bitcoin, as well as potentially the longevity of the network.
Yeah, why don't we dive right into that? Because these new concepts, maybe they're confusing to people. I'm still learning about them, but maybe someone can jump in with a brief overview, a primer of like just BitFi in general, runes, BRC20. Where are all these terms, and why should I care?
It's so funny because the terms are also evolving, right? Like, we were doing research. BitFi is no longer the term. It's now BTC-Fi, even though BitFi before halving was like indexing everywhere. Now you can't find it anywhere. So this is when you know the space is so new. No one even knows what the hell to call it, right? So it's an exciting time. So now if you're gonna search for this stuff on Twitter, anywhere else, search for BTC-Fi, you'll find a lot more information. BitFi seems to have disappeared. I don't know what happened. Everybody woke up one day and decided to call it something else. But why is it important? Let's take just 1 second. I think in the next 60 seconds, I'll be able to clarify why ordinals are important. So when you look at NFTs were the hype in one of the previous market cycles. Like, they were the thing. You went from NFTs that were dropped or minted for free, when you look at what happened with CryptoPunks, and are now worth over $100,000 worth of ETH each. And at that price, everybody is bearish on them, that they're not worth enough, because people have paid millions of dollars for these NFTs, right? So when you look at NFTs, you don't think of them as utility. You think of them, there's a community being built. They represent a larger cause with CryptoPunks and cypherpunks and the whole community. It represents an evolution in technology that pushed forward the standards of what the Ethereum chain was able to do. It pushed over its limits of scalability. It pushed forward the concept of you don't only have fungible tokens, but you have this unique concept of actually having art. Like if you take a physical piece of art and you have to go certify that this is an original piece of art and what is its history of ownership. If you don't have that record, it takes weeks, months, sometimes decades to find official people to get that record of history. So that the JPEG culture is a lot more than that. It's representing a new wave of technology that is bringing on-chain data tracking of assets and title tracking. And this technology has been used to make real impact in people's lives, where there's countries in the world, I'm actually heading over to Zanzibar, where people have actually tried to inscribe titles and land ownership titles in the form of NFTs on chain because they don't have paper records. And where they do have paper records, those paper records, if they get burnt or they get destroyed, that's it. You have no claim to your land ownership. So there's, with everything that seems fun, there's an actual use case behind. But there was a problem with the EVM ecosystem and all other NFT ecosystems for a long time where the protocol itself did not require you to inscribe the metadata, meaning the attributes of that NFT. In the case of land, its details of who owns the land and all that stuff, the image itself, the data itself, to be inscribed on chain. This was not part of any of the ERC 720, ERC 721, or 1155 protocols. And similarly, other protocols on Solana, this was not required. This meant that you could store the data on third-party systems. Most reputable collections stored it on IPFS, which is a digital data store, digital decentralized data store, but it's still not on chain. It's a separate system. And in many cases, they stored it on AWS S3, which is a centralized data provider, data storage provider. And in some cases, guys, I've seen people store it on Google Drive. This meant that if the administrator of this collection did not pay their credit card bill or subscription renewal, your $100,000 JPEG could go poof. The data could just disappear. And a lot of people don't know that. And it's surprising for them to learn that, oh my God, this is how the NFTs were working in many cases. Of course, many of them are on IPFS, but quite a few follow this central data storage problem. Ordinals solved this problem by making it part of the protocol. You cannot have an ordinal that does not have all of his data inscribed on chain on Bitcoin. This is why all of the artists are going crazy of moving over from EVM and other ecosystems. Even Web2 artists and now like reputable Web2 artists are coming over and for the first time inscribing their art into history forever on chain on Bitcoin. And it's very expensive to do so. That's why Ordinals have taken off. And then we can kind of get into how BRC20 and Runes came off. But this is why Ordinals is a big deal, because for the first time ever, as part of the core protocol, your metadata has to be inscribed on chain. Otherwise, it's not an ordinal, right? This is a novel concept that was introduced in about 2 years ago with the first inscription by Casey Rodamore. And since then, it's taken off. Some of the most valuable collections throughout all ecosystems are Ordinals collections. The communities are the OGs of the Bitcoin community, OG core developers, and it's the who's who of the ecosystem. And there's so much more to explore here. But I'll give everyone else a chance to kind of share their perspective on this. And I'll come back to obviously what's happening with BRC20 and Runes to comment on if that's what we want to get into.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I actually did not know that a sort of historical collections or potential collections on Ethereum had an element that was centralized, a critical element. That's sort of disturbing to learn. So it's not surprising to me to hear that artists, other creators are moving over to inscribing their art on the Bitcoin chains. It's doing that in a more decentralized manner. So that makes a lot of sense. So talk to us though about the evolution now into Runes, and then let's dive into Ferrum, because I think people are dying to hear how Ferrum is adding value to this ecosystem. But tell us about Runes. What's the evolution of Runes now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, by the way, to be clear on the ETH side, there's a concept of inscriptions which tried to bring data and inscription on chain. It didn't take off as much. And people are trying to inscribe on IPFS, which is the decentralized data store, but nothing like what Ordinals does, which requires it to be on chain. So there's a distinction there. I don't want to say that all Ethereum projects are shit. That's not the case. They're extremely valuable ecosystems over there. And those that are doing it right are using IPFS, but it's just better to be on chain on Bitcoin and as an Ordinal. So what happened after Ordinals took off is there was a an experimental initiative started by developer Doma Data to see, is there demand for fungible tokens on Bitcoin? This is where he introduced BRC20 as an experimental standard. The problem was BRC20 had to deal with the confines of Ordinals protocol and Ordinals theory, which was created, its entire architecture was created with non-fungible data in mind. It was not created to deal with fungible tokens. Hence, if you've ever owned a BRC20 token, you realize that you can't just send it to each other. You have to first, what you're doing is your BRC20 tokens are essentially inscribed on a set of Satoshis similar to an NFT, similar to an ordinal. And then you're essentially updating the first inscription to transfer. If I want to send it to you, Ian, I have to first inscribe the new owner information on there. In other words, I have to update my BRC20 NFT, which is funny because it's supposed to be fungible. And then I have to send that updated inscribed NFT over to you that says it is now yours, right? So it's a two-part transaction, which is a problem. Even with these problems, though, BRC20's had $150 billion in trading volume. So it showcased that even with a broken ecosystem, there's demand for fungibility on Bitcoin. So Runes came out where the original creator of the protocol, Casey Rodarmore, realized that, oh man, there's a lot of demand for fungibility and people are having to struggle with, like Domo Data did an immense service to the community by showcasing BRC20s that there is demand for fungibility. And Casey Rodarmore came out, let me help improve this ecosystem and make an update to the core Ordinals protocol itself, which allow true fungible tokens with runes. Now, runes, if I want to send you a rune, I can just transfer it. I can transfer you 1, 2, a quarter, whatever I want to do, similar to how you're used to fungible tokens in the EVM and other ecosystems. So this is why we're very bullish on runes. This is why all developers are now coming and focusing on, because the ecosystem is developed enough that it makes sense to spend development time and effort into the ecosystem. This is why Ferrum is getting involved, because we're, through our interoperability protocol, going to make runes tradable and accessible even on EVM chains through our OmniSwaps and OmniChain liquidity protocols that we're launching, through multi-swap protocol that we're backing. There's so much that we're doing in this space, and we're excited to share more about it, of course.
Hell yeah. So I look at runes as that sort of evolution from BRC20. It's not really usable, but like you said, there was a lot of demand. There still is a lot of demand for really anything associated with Bitcoin. Runes is an evolution of that. Ferrum, potentially an evolution of that even further. So why don't we talk a little bit more about what Ferrum is doing, what's Ferrum building that's going to add value to that ecosystem, and then we can also talk about everything that happened at the Lisbon conference, which I know folks are probably eager to learn more about as well.
Yeah, I think what Ferrum's building is bringing our infrastructure, our technology, our connections, our resources to make all of this technology that's in its infancy to first evolve and help it get to a level of maturity. So our team is actually part of the Ordinals Coding Club discussions that happen once a week, twice a week in some cases with Rodarmore. We've had discussions around adding elements to Runes protocol that don't exist yet, that are present in ERC20 tokens, such as making tokens pausable, making them mintable, which is needed for bridging aspects. So we're not just spectators, we are core contributors. And in fact, some of the things that we did even at the conference that highlight the communities that we're collaborating with. These are the OG communities that helped improve Bitcoin's core protocols. And we featured them on this wine bottle that we highlighted and gave to some of the most active participants of the conference. And the reason we did this is to showcase that Ferrum is not just coming in as just another project. Ferrum, as it is in the name, inspired by the 26th element on the periodic table, it allows this element to fuse with the most amount of elements with the least amount of friction. And Ferrum has showcased that in real life as well by bringing together not only Ordinals projects, but we launched an Ordinals Passport initiative, which was an Ordinals related activity, but secured by an EVM powerhouse chain link, which was securing its passport number. So we were able to bring together EVM and Ordinals communities that don't typically communicate together, but at this conference, we will showcase how Ferrum's prowess, its team, its expertise, its tech, and its connections are able to bring together communities, not only from a tech standpoint, but also from a standpoint of where interoperability makes sense, where project communication makes sense, where marketing makes the co-marketing and growth makes sense. And all of that is what Ferrum's working on. And specifically, we're going to enable the trading of runes across EVM ecosystems. We're also working with some partners to bring stables onto Bitcoin. These are two massive initiatives that Ferrum is directly going to be involved with and is going to be able to inject so much value to the communities that are involved that are going to benefit from this technology.
So it seems like right now, Ferrum Network, as far as Bitcoin is considered, is in the brand awareness, partnership, collaboration stages, and the real utility and value prop for the Ferrum token comes with mainnet launch and the deployment of this tech stack into the mainnet and multi-swap and everything else. So what's kind of the estimated timeline for all these to kind of really get working, get roaring, and people can actually start utilizing them, and the core Ferrum holders who right now are primarily holding Ferrum for launchpad access now start to benefit from the mainnet, from BitFi, and from multi-swap, the real technical utility that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of the Ferrum powerhouse has been, as you can see, even right now, you've got the team here on Crypto Paradise. We've got this division. You've got the division on TDI side that's been helping advising projects. You've got LaunchTech, that's the business side. Ferrum is used to dealing with a lot and doing it very well. So the reason I mentioned that is while we were out there making these real world connections and holding an amazing immersive event, Ferrum also has at the same time released updates to Multiswap, updates to Crucible, updates to Mainnet, and we're starting to roll out the Omnichain and Omniswap updates within this month. So this is not far out in the future. In the month of June, you'll see Omniswaps already occurring across EVM and other connected ecosystems. We've already enabled through one of our layer 2 solutions that we're backing the ability to index runes and the ability to index BTC directly onto MetaMask. This has already been implemented, and we're going to start to roll out some teasers around that. The production-ready versions of this are going to get rolled out throughout Q3, but we're starting the rollout process in the month of June. So if you're a Ferrum holder, you're not going to have to wait for another 5 years. I also give back to like technology projects that have built significant infrastructure. Those projects are not going to launch things in a month. Ferrum has been building for 6 years, and that's how long it takes to build something that will last for centuries to come. Stacks is a great example. It's one of the largest Bitcoin L2 projects enabling smart contracts on Bitcoin. They started their development in 2013 and started their rollout in 2018-19. Ferrum started development in 2018, and now as we're coming into 24, we're starting to roll out our tech. And this is why if a project comes out and launches tomorrow, first time they introduce themselves, and a month later they're launching their mainnet, I would be a little cautious. Maybe like, how do you go create something in 1 month that takes most reputable projects 6 years to create? So now's the time for Ferrum to start rolling it out. And for those that have been along for the ride from the beginning, they're going to have a lot of fun because they're going to get to use all these amazing products that we're rolling out June and Q3 onwards.
That's awesome. And
That's
Nate,
awesome.
you were at the conference in Lisbon. Do you want to kind of give your perspective or your overview of what's going on at the conference from I would say a less technical perspective than that of Taha? This might be, might
Far less technical.
right, might stick with more of our viewers than Taha's approach.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So
You basically just
the
set up
conference.
boring, Nate, and you got to make it lively. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Nate, dog, tell us what you felt, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the conference in Lisbon was actually the non-fungible conference, and the non-fungible conference really fits well with the kind of the Ferrum ethos of bringing people together, because the non-fungible conference is a collection of other conferences. So there was a gaming conference, there was an NFT conference, there was like an AI, an art conference, there was an Ordinals conference. There's multiple, there's 5 or 6 different conferences all came together. And to do a little, self-bragging, far and away the Ordinals conference was the best. And I think that's largely in part to Ferrum being the main sponsor, the co-sponsor of that. We worked with some other really, really great teams, the Pizza Ninjas, Crypto Bags, with the Sovereign and his team, with who am I forgetting here, Taha? We had a couple
we've
really
got
great partners.
There were so many, but I think the main ones, we've got Seize Control, Pizza Ninjas,
Seize Control.
those are the main backers. And then we've got literally, as you even look at, the reason I keep bringing this up is you've got over a dozen projects that were featured on this exclusive wine bottle for all the people that went through the Ferrum design quest for the Ordinals passport. And in the passport, we had 26 different activations, and 26 because Ferrum is element 26. So we gave homage that if you complete 4 taught you that a 4 mega inscription on Bitcoin costs $65,000. So there's value in that. Nate, maybe you can talk about how we created those tiers. And then 21, because the supply of Bitcoin, and 26 was an Easter egg. Those who completed 26 activations got to come to the Ferrum Yacht Fleet party. And we had so many amazing artists, creators, and backers. Nate, maybe you can talk about how those people felt about coming to a Ferrum event and now are excited to build on Ferrum.
Yeah, out of all the 5 or 6 different conferences that came together to make up NFC, the Ordinals area was far and away the busiest. I think we had the most going on and the most cohesion. The NFT passport, excuse me, the Ordinals passport that we had, what was hopefully we'll have a few of those at some future events to give out as well. But they were super cool. There's going to be a couple of videos coming out both on Crypto Paradise and on the Ferrum Network's channels, kind of highlighting what that is and some of the activities that went on with it. But essentially, it was like an Easter egg hunt around the conference. We had of those 26 activations; those were partner projects that had helped to contribute in some way, or is working with Ferrum in some way. There's a few others in there. We had paid homage to Uncle Gary and Elizabeth Warren and a couple other nefarious crypto folks. But the more activations you got, the more these Easter eggs you found around the conference, the more opportunities you had to win prizes. Obviously, as Taha mentioned, we had the yacht party at the end of the week. I believe there was a rune stone that was given away, and there was different opportunities for airdrops, whitelist activations, NFT giveaways. And so, as you can imagine, people were pretty stoked about this. It was a free opportunity, and the Easter egg hunt was a great way to introduce projects to people rather than just walking by booths passively like you most of the time that you do. It was an interactive, fun way. You're scanning QR codes. There was different activities that you had to do and complete, and at the same time, you're learning about these projects. You're learning about the BTC ecosystem. You're learning about Ferrum, about Ordinals. So it was a really cool, interactive, kind of in real life, digital experience for these people. And because of that, when other booths were empty, when other areas of the conference were empty, the Ferrum's Ordinals lounge and everything that was going on with the Ordinals stage was packed pretty much start to finish for the entire conference. So shout out to all the teams that were involved. And everybody that came by the booth. If you have a picture or a video with any of us at the conference, if you're watching this, please share that on Telegram to us, tag us on Twitter. It was great meeting everybody that came to the event. And really looking forward to the next one. And unfortunately, the next one in Nashville, we're gonna have more than 2 weeks to plan, so it should be even better.
That's awesome, and I think that experience, although it might not harness big speculation for Ferrum, the token and Ferrum Network right now, but I think what that does do is it opens up a lot of collaborations, partnerships, and people will remember that. So when the Ferrum products are actually live, the user acquisition and the user onboarding is probably going to happen very quickly. So slowly and then all at once is what we like to say about Bitcoin adoption. And I think the same can apply to Ferrum Network and, of course, the utility token, the FRM token.
I'm very, to me, it's in a sense like, when you're on a flight and there's turbulence and they tell you when you should freak out. And when you should freak out is when the flight attendants are freaking out. There's a reason why people, when they ask me, where's the utility to Ferrum? And if you don't see the management team and the leaders freaking out, that should tell you something. Because Ferrum is so deeply embedded into the mainnet protocol, into every single cross-chain transaction that's going to occur as we roll out our mainnet across over a dozen ecosystems that we transcribe and integrated with. I am not worried about the utility of Ferrum token and it's not because I don't think about it, it's because every single one of those cross-chain transactions requires a little bit of Ferrum to go through. To me, what's more important, and that's something that all of us should worry about, is making Ferrum fun for everyone to build on, create, and use to be part of the Ferrum community. Because unless people want to build on Ferrum, none of those transaction fees are going to get generated. So that utility, which is going to far surpass anyone's imagination, just look at the amount of utility that Ethereum, Polkadot, and all these ecosystems are getting. We are building Ferrum protocol to reach those levels. And that's only going to happen if we make it fun. Hence, these events and creating these connections is extremely important. And we're just getting started, guys. It's just, we're looking for more people to join the mission and to have a lot of fun building the future together.
Oh, man, I love that. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Going to conferences like these, meeting people in real life, establishing connections, creating credibility within these spaces, that is how you get adoption. And I know some people are like, well, why didn't you spend, you could have spent that money on influencers, for example, or something like that. But that is not going to cause adoption on the mainnet, and it's not going to result in long-term sustainability for Ferrum Network, the protocol, and FRM, the token. This kind of thing does. It's hard work, it's grassroots, it's definitely not immediate, like, sugar high, like, oh yeah, chart pumping immediately, but it's laying that groundwork for long-term meaningful adoption. And so I commend you guys, the amount of work you put in. It's obvious. I would highly recommend everyone watching this video join the Ferrum Network community, follow Ferrum Network on Twitter, and you will see everything that went down at that conference. And you're soon going to start to see the fruits of that pay off as announcements come out, partnerships are announced, relationships are made official, artists, for example, committing to building on the Ferrum Network. That is the kind of thing that's coming next from a conference like this. And of course, in addition to the actual products, the core products coming out apparently in June. So you guys did a fantastic job. Super bullish on everything that's been going down and the future of Ferrum. Good work. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we jump off from today's video?
I think my
I
final
would just
thoughts
say
are
that you don't want to miss out what's happening with the Ordinals ecosystem, and that's why Ferrum is looking at it so deeply. So as Ian said, follow our socials, ask questions. As a Ferrum holder, even when there's no direct connection to the Ordinals ecosystem, because of the friendship and connections we made. For example, I've got a really close relationship with the Pizza Ninja community. I'm going to be bringing the Pizza Pets collection that are dropping to the Ferrum holders. Just because you're a Ferrum holder, you get these benefits, and a lot more of these benefits will come along with everything else. You already have access through TDI and everything else. So you definitely want to follow the socials, of course, follow the updates of Crypto Paradise, but this helps you get familiar with this ecosystem that a lot of people are not familiar with. And you definitely want to take advantage of that before everybody gets familiar with it, because that's where the real magic happens, guys.
And that's kind of what I was going to say. Bitcoin's the king of crypto. It's going to remain the king. So you do have the upside there. Institutions coming in play, which is going to lead in this BTC Fi that Taha just talked about, and a lot of opportunities there, which ultimately is going to lead into the infrastructure opportunities, which Ferrum Network is targeting to be a massive leader in the Bitcoin Fi sector.
Perfect, guys. Absolutely amazing. Super bullish. I cannot wait to have both Taha and Nate on again as guests. But until then, follow the socials, smash the like, retweet, all that good stuff, and we will see you on the beach.